Hi, hello. My name is Armagan, and today on Founders Grit, we have Patrick. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, Amargan, nice to talk with you.
Nice to finally meet you too, Patrick. So tell our viewers, what do you do? How do you define yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. So I work run a company that's centered around its broadest, I'd say, description, IT consulting.
Hmm.
That's pretty generic. And if I took it a layer lower, we really focus on data value extraction. So we help organizations to aggregate and make sense of the sort of proliferation of data that's happening globally these days, and to use that data to drive value back into their business. So that's the gist. Could obviously go into much more depth and bore you for a full hour, but I think that's a good summary if you would agree.
Yeah, absolutely. We would, by the way, we would love for you to go in depth. Our viewers love in depth details about how a company works, what they're looking at, how they create the magic that they create. So, whenever you feel like going into uh, too deep, you will have a green signal from me. So,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah, I can
Tell
give
us,
you a little
yeah,
more there if you'd
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
or I'll follow your lead there. You tell me.
Sure. Go a bit deeper into who your clients are. How do you do what you do? Which databases do you use?
Sure. So we work with you think about your ideal customer profile in business, and that's
Mhm.
something that we're sort of always looking at, and it's ever evolving. Um, the world of applied AI, how I would define that, has come a long ways in the last 10 or 20 years. A lot of that's to do with public cloud, um, lower cost, high performance computing that's
Mhm.
available to be able to process these models and just process the massive amounts of data that are required for this. But if I look back, call it 5 years or so, 10 years even, well-funded startup space was a lot of the areas that we focused on, just because of the adoption of applied AI was much more prevalent. That's changed a lot in the last few years. We're seeing that
Yeah.
most companies are looking how they can drive AI or machine learning into the equation. There's really a few core areas that we focus on. So, just wrapping that thought up is I would say anything from your forward thinking startup organizations on up through very large enterprise companies. And the couple areas that we focus on really are, can we help that company drive additional revenue or profitability in some
Hmm.
capacity? Can we help them to cost optimize, cut costs out of the equation, or look at operational efficiencies that are all driven sort of by this data and the manipulation of data and the building of solutions that are generally going to be underpinned by machine learning algorithms and artificial intelligence.
I understand. Okay, makes sense. So, with this in mind, what were some challenges that you faced when COVID-19 hit 1 year back? Damn, I'm just realizing it's been a year.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Holy
Yeah.
cow. One thing unrelated is I have a 9 month old as of yesterday.
Oh,
Not what we're here to talk
congratulations.
about, but that was challenging. Thank you. My wife deserves all the congratulations, though. I will say,
To both, to both.
that's been challenging. Yeah, thank you. So it's been a blessing in disguise, somewhat. I was living on an airplane for the most part prior to that, and I've got to be
Hmm.
around him, you know,
Yeah.
24/7. So that's great. When I look at the business side of the house, we've been fortunate. We were at a point in our business. We'll be coming up on 4 years old in July of this year. We're at a point
Oh,
where
great.
we're kind of getting over that curve of stabilization and
Hmm.
sustainability. There's always more you can do. Um, that's one of them. We had planned for that. We had thought out, and just had I'd say a solid strategy around cash flow, resiliency, et cetera. The other side of the coin, I think that's even more important is a bit of luck. I think if I were to tell you that I had planned all of this, I would first of all just be lying to you, and then just completely naive. But there, as you can probably appreciate, there has been some businesses that have prospered through
Oh yes,
through
heavily.
COVID-19. Others have been just,
Absolutely.
yeah, others have been just dramatically impacted negatively, and it's
Hmm.
terribly sad. Um, for us, the sort of fortunate situation we were in is we do a lot of work in the arena of what we refer to as customer retention optimization. So think about
Okay.
machine learning, customer acquisition, machine learning enhanced engagement with your organization, and then retention. So
Hmm.
a sort of a unique thing happened with COVID-19 is we're all on our devices for 20 hours a day.
Hmm.
Is a lot of subscription based businesses saw pretty dramatic increases in monthly active user subscriptions, et cetera. And a lot of our solutions that we build in that place help to enhance and improve upon that customer experience so that they're acquiring more, they're converting more, they're increasing engagement. There's things that a lot of those organizations have different tiers of either free or kind of call it
Yeah.
silver, gold, and platinum pay tiers. We were able to increase those and then build solutions for what we're starting to see, and just fingers crossed that this is over and in our rearview mirror soon. But how do I continue to engage and retain those customers when we go back to a world that is not everything digital? We're actually able to engage with
Hmm.
human beings in public places, and and that's been a huge growth point for our business. So we actually we're growing well. We had a huge kind of like uplift in the business over the last couple of years, and we've seen that continue as a result. So we've been really lucky there. I again want to stress that piece. We're just sort of right place at the right time,
Yeah.
and saw the writing on the wall and focused on those types of things.
Interesting. So
So
that was going to
that
be
part's been good.
my second question as well. That okay, you guys grew great during the COVID-19 pandemic, but okay, when things are going back to place, when a lot of countries like UK, the UAE, etc., have a lot of vaccinations already in place, what is the plan for when people go off their devices? How are you as a founder looking 6 months or 2 years ahead?
Yeah, great question. Like I think first and foremost, like I want to hug a stranger, just from that, the missing out of that
Oh
human
God.
interaction. But that
Yeah.
not what you're asking me about. So I think one thing that is hard, that most companies can appreciate. Like I've always been a big advocate of remote work, and I think that you hire the right people, you trust them, and that goes a long ways. And I think there's some huge benefits from being able to work at home and do a load of laundry during the middle of the day, or like I see my son much more than I had in the past. So there's that benefit of it, but we absolutely lose out on that just natural collaboration that happens as we're working in closer proximity. My organization is pretty spread out across the US.
Mhm.
So for us, that's always going to be a challenge, or at least in the short term, is how do we get together? And we're thinking about things of just let's go have some fun together. Let's go at least once a quarter. Let's just get together and let's obviously do a little bit of work, but let's make sure that there's some fun that's built into the equation, so that we can keep those bonds strong. We can take that away as we go back to our home cities, and
Hmm.
are just effectively communicating. We use tools like Zoom and all of the other kind of video conferencing solutions that help. We use Slack very heavily for internal collaboration, and
Yeah.
just I would say, like, I don't have the answers at the end of the day. It's something that we're working on day in and day out, but I can tell you that we're all very excited to get back to some normalcy and get out and just interact with people. And at the end of the day, like, that's one of our, I'd say, main points of our drivers or tenets of success is just our personal kind of components of our business, and getting out there and building relationships with our customers.
Retweet every single word, Patrick. So with this remote work in place, and I want to ask about um different different age demographics and workers respond differently to remote work.
Mhm.
How has your company's employees responded? Have you seen a change in how young professionals respond to remote work, or has there been some kind of a resistance from the middle-aged employees?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we have sort of, just because of the space we focus in, our
Mhm.
workforce, it tends to be, I would say, in the younger demographics in general.
Mhm.
It's sort of a newer, widely adopted kind of technology space. So, if I've been in the space in technology for 30 years, it's a lower likelihood that this has been my area of focus. So that
Okay.
in and of itself, I think, has helped us to be a bit more resilient to that process. But at the same time, we do have folks that are in older demographics, and I think it's a different challenge for different people. And I would say it's much more than just the work component of it. I think there's the all of this stuff that's happening at home, and like COVID-19's impacted all of us in different ways. And um, most of us know somebody that's been very ill or even, unfortunately passed away. And I think that just that
Mhm.
emotional component of it is something that's really challenging to work through day in and day out. And what we try to do is just, be there for each other and be understanding. And, if say you have, kids in elementary school, and for whatever reason, like they're not able to go to school, or the childcare kind of drops off for that day, like it creates stress. And I've personally experienced it. And I think what we do is we try to be cognizant of it, try to talk to each other, not about business, about that stuff, as
Yeah,
much as
absolutely.
possible, and provide a comfortable place for those types of conversations. Just be understanding. And I've seen that go a long ways. Could we be better at it? Absolutely. You still have a business to run, and there's still sort of the stresses that come along with that. But that's something I try to focus on, and urge my team to do the same. It seems like it's worked pretty well.
That's amazing, Patrick. So we're at the last question. Is there anything you want our listeners to know about your company, the work you do, or the passion you have?
Sorry, I missed the last part. What we do, or what?
Yeah, the work you do, or any advice you have for young
Oh, any
professionals.
advice? Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think we went over what we do pretty well.
Mhm.
I would say the offer I'd put out there is I love talking about this stuff. If you have questions, reach out to me. If you want to learn more about what we do, like I'm always willing to talk about that. But for young professionals as well, I'm very open. Obviously, there's only so many hours in the day, but I like to mentor younger folks that are driven and interested. And I had the luxury of that along the way. I always wish I would
Mhm.
have had more, but I wouldn't be where I'm at today without learning from those that have been there and done that. So that, I guess, that kind of trails into the device component of that question, or sorry, not device, advice component of
Mhm.
that question is to like be curious. I think that's the biggest thing.
Be
Be
curious.
driven. Have strong work ethic. Do
Mhm.
something you love as much as you can. Like it's always going to be work. And like if I was honest with you, I'd be a professional skier, and that's not a statement for my skill set. It's just I love it. So it's a balance of I think going to find something that you really like doing day in and day out. Balancing money and that together to also allow you to do the things you like to do outside of work, and make sure you're keeping your friends and family close along the way. So that's what it's all about in
Absolutely,
the end.
absolutely. It's about the balancing everything. And while we are on the topic, I want to get your take on something. So,
Mm-hmm.
back a few days, I was going through, the usual things about, okay, what kind of a career should I go through? What should I be shifting careers or something? And uh, I came across a theory which said, uh, don't go for something you love, go for something you're naturally great at, which you don't need to put an
Hmm.
effort into. It just naturally flows through you. Being a founder, being a company's head, what would your take on this be?
I love that. I think that's great, and I've heard something similar, and I can't place it exactly, but
Hmm.
I absolutely love that. It's sort of like kind of goes in line with that, it sort of contradicts, but like do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. You could almost shift that towards that, do
Yeah.
something that you're naturally good at and is interesting to you, and you'll never work a day in your life. So I do, I think that that's incredibly impactful. And it's sort of like, I'll be 40 in June. So not, I'm
Oh.
not super old, but I'm not super young either, and it's sort of like I asked myself jokingly, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And it sounds like you did the same thing. And I tell that to people is like, just, I think the best thing advice I would have on that front is don't become complacent, like always, continue to be creative or curious, sorry, and continue to learn. And what'll happen is, I think we all went through that sort of like young professionals. Like I went to college, I changed my major 3 times, or not all of
Yeah.
us, but you know what I mean? Like I made it
Yeah.
change my
Yeah.
job. Like it's not the end of the world. I started out in real estate development. I hated it. It just
Really?
was not for me. And I ended up in this, very, very different world and never expected that. And I think that it's okay. Like you don't have to have a plan for everything. And it's part of the fun of life is, you take things in stride and you learn from your experiences and the people you're around, and that'll help inform, decisions as you go forward. So
True, true. Well, the last thing I want to say is that 40 is the new 20. So don't
love it.
beat yourself about it.
Yeah,
This
love
was
it.
Patrick. Thank you so much for coming on our show. Take care.
Yeah, thanks, Armageddon. You too. Okay.